Before we begin this Thursday evening address, if you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure to do so now. And if you are subscribed, check and make sure that YouTube hasn't tried to unsubscribe you. And also hit the bell that's supposed to notify you when a new video goes up. And be sure to give the video a like. The white supremacists hate that. Now, that said, say, does anyone remember that time that P. Dummy said that the Democrats shouldn't expect any black votes without reparations? Hey, remember that time that P. Dummy had said that if the police don't start getting prosecuted for harming black people, then black folks should refuse to vote for Democrats because they're not protecting black people? Hey, remember that time that P. Dummy had said that if Alexandria Ocasio Horseface refused to make her pledge to reparations, that she shouldn't get any black votes? Me neither. I had largely been aiming to not talk about this, mainly because there are certain subjects that black people as a group just don't handle very well. Sports, and anything related to music, we don't handle those subjects very well. We tend to get caught up in them very quickly, and we stop talking about whatever is important or anything intelligent about it, and we just get wrapped up in whatever facile inanity that we tend to get caught up in. That's where the conversation tends to go and stay. So whenever you see somebody like Punk Daddy on the radar, I look and go, oh, this is nothing but trouble. But because of the fact that the story's been making the rounds and more of you have been contacting me and asking me, have I seen it? I feel like I need to say something about it because there is a relevant issue at work here due to how much attention his blathering has gotten. You see, Punk Daddy is trying to figure out how to reinvent himself, and it's not by his own accord. I do not credit this to him. I think it's a matter of he had some white handlers who told him, hey, you might want to go ahead and go in this direction because too many of these black folks are doing something wrong. You make yourself real useful to us. We'll owe you a favor. And he said, for real? Are there some Hispanic female drawers in it for me? And that's basically where he gets on board. But the thing is, he's not genuine about this. I don't give a damn how many shirts with African on it that he wears. I mean, he hasn't been doing this before. What the hell makes you think it's genuine now? You see, while the black media was saying no tangibles, no votes, so we've been saying this for years and years, while we were saying that if the Democrats don't step up with specific tangibles, starting with reparations, that if they're not coming to us putting something in our pocket, they shouldn't get our vote. While we were saying black folks don't need to be voting without specific tangibles that are promised to us, Punk Daddy, on the other hand, was saying vote or die. Wasn't telling you what to vote for, just saying vote or die. See, that's what he's been doing for the longest time. That's what he's been saying. No pledges, no promises required. We'll just show up and vote. He was the poster child for showing up to vote without any tangibles being promised. Show up to vote because you were told to. He's been the main one pushing that garbage. Now all of a sudden, he's trying to act like he discovered religion. And he's sitting here blatantly using our talking points word for word and line by line. And since I know that old Punk Daddy clearly listens to the new voices of black media, I'll go ahead and give you some more verbiage that you can take crib notes for, though it won't be very flattering, Sean. It's meaningless to say the black vote is not going to be for free if you don't then say what the price must be. It's not enough to give half a thought, which is about as much of a thought process as Pete Dimwit's ever had. The black vote's not going to be free. You're supposed to say what the price is. The starting bid, $16 trillion. You see, now you're talking. You see, this is what happens when you have some white media tool who decides he's going to try to make himself a little bit more serious, trying to wade into the turgid waters of American politics. You ain't got the IQ for it, Sean. The white handlers who put money in your pocket, they couldn't put sense in that skull of yours. And you trying to mislead black people and think that the white media is going to pump you up and hype you up to us, don't dream. This is not a man to be taken seriously when it comes to black people's interests. Richard Spencer said that the alt right wouldn't come into its own until they disagreed with Donald Trump. That's what Richard Spencer said. When the alt right held their little Klan rally, Klan Nazi rally in Charlottesville, you had no less than David Duke saying that Donald Trump's not carrying out our agenda. We're here to carry out his. Richard Spencer's like, I take exception to that. We're not going to come into our own until we disagree with Trump. You see, that's the language of power. Richard Spencer didn't want his movement to become a subsidiary to any political party or any particular politician. He didn't want a situation where the tail wound up wagging the dog. He seemed to understand how these kind of things work. He's not here to tell the alt-right vote Republican. He's not here to be a local office of the GOP. But P. Dummy, on the other hand, or P. Dimwit, that's what he's about. And for the longest time, he had been cheerleading for black people to be about the same nonsense. Now he's trying to change his tune. Yeah, because vote or die didn't carry the day. And there's new voices out here getting black folks on code. And what's happening is, instead of him being the belle of the ball, he's irrelevant. The first thing that you should get about Punk Daddy's little inane declaration, that ought to be the first red flag to you. It was brought to you by the white media. He didn't come to black folks. He decided to let the white media do that. And by the way, do you notice that he didn't say, I'll hold the black vote hostage? He just said he would hold the vote hostage. Now, obviously, a man wearing a shirt that says African on it and who says our community, you would naturally assume he's talking about black people. But as I've always taught you, you need to look at what people say, but more importantly, pay attention to what they do not say. It wasn't 5 seconds before he began his pivot. He started off with saying the black vote is not going to be for free. But of course, he doesn't say what the price must be to get the black vote, just the black vote's not going to be for free. And then once he goes ahead and gets that out of the way, he starts watering it down from there. That's the only time he says the word black in isolation. After that, he ain't even saying, if he does mention the word black, he's going to say black and brown. Or either that, or he won't mention the word black at all. It's going to be that same old kumbaya, our community, make our lives better. Yeah, he's real judicious with when he says the word black, as few times as possible. He went out of his way to avoid saying the word black, to minimize how many times he said it, and to water it down first chance he got, and amalgamate it and lump everybody else in with us first chance he got. That lets you know what he's about. He's talking about our community. And then says, well, you got to improve the lives of black and brown people. Family, after Barack Obama, after Kamala Harris, after all these fakers, frauds, phonies, and fools who have attempted to BS their way past our defenses and to use all sorts of trick language and to talk around our interest and to do everything they could to avoid saying the word black, you would think by now that we would be hip to this con. You look to see, is this guy sitting here giving us a straight black line, or is he giving us a straight line of bull? It's either one or the other. And you see with Punk Daddy which one it is. So you got to be real careful. See, Punk Daddy, he's sitting here putting on his ultra New York black accent. The rest of the time, he's sitting there talking like freaking Howdy Doody. You guys know how he is. But now he's putting on his mumble rap accent. And he starts off by saying the black vote's not going to be for free. That's some weasel words meant to rope you in. That's a little bit of misdirection meant to make you think, oh, he's talking about us. Well, he seems to be talking about you. It doesn't. But don't worry, the language is going to change soon enough, and it did almost immediately. This man is not talking about what's in black people's interest. What he's talking about is all that same old Black-Brown Alliance voter coalition bullcrap. The same old game. And the white media is praising him for that. That should be your first clue that something's wrong here. As I posted on Twitter, it's asinine for Punk Daddy to be claiming that he'll hold the vote hostage, because every hostage taker is supposed to have a specific demand. That's the point of taking hostages. because there's something specific that you're trying to acquire. But what does P. Dimwit demand? What is his specific thing that he wants if the Democrats expect the self styled leader of the black electorate? Oh, I'm sorry, I mean just the vote, to allow black and brown people to cast their ballots for the Democrats. What is it that he actually demanded? What did he say that he wants Joe Biden to do? He didn't say. He just used this completely innocuous, indistinct, vague chatter about we can't be taken for granted no more. We want to know clearly, okay, we want to know clearly what? That he's going to change the lives and quality of the life of black and brown people. He didn't say anything about tangibles, didn't say anything about reparations. And by the way, that should be your clue right there that this man is not to be taken seriously. There's all sorts of red flags here. And I'm not saying that if he said reparations, that means he's on the side of the angels. It's a matter of, you notice how he's gone out of his way to avoid actually saying anything that would require white supremacy to give up any of its power. He didn't say anything that would make any people from the dominant society have heartburn. Nothing that was going to make them uncomfortable. Man, Kamala Harris couldn't have spoken a more meaningless phrase than that. Change the lives and quality of the life of black and brown people. For a moment there, I was expecting him to say, we need Joe Biden to give us a lift act, give us a lift up. I was halfway expecting him to come out with some stupidity like that. It would have fit. What the hell does that phrase, change the lives of and quality of life of black people, mean? What does that mean? Change the lives and quality of life. Kamala Harris, she couldn't have put it any better than that. You're sitting here using words that don't mean anything. It's like saying economic development. It's one of those phrases that can mean whatever you want, which means it has no meaning at all. It's completely and thoroughly empty. I warned you about that. When you got these con men who come up to you, and what happens is they use these indistinct phrases, very inexact language. They keep it appropriately vague because that's exactly what their goal is, and they let you project onto their words whatever you want to think. And then you'll sit here saying, P. Dimwit, he said that Joe Biden got to step up with tangibles. Did he ever say tangibles? He said Joe Biden got to cut the check. Did he say Biden must cut the check? He said reparations. Did he actually say reparations? He said that the black vote's going to be held hostage to Joe Biden. Did he actually say he would hold the black vote hostage, or did he just say the vote, period? See, that's what happens when you got these politicians doing their con games, like Kamala Harris. That's what they do. They know that what you're expecting is for them to make specific pledges for you, and their goal is, we'll be damned if we're going to do that. That's what you learn from Kamala Harris. You think I'm going to do something that only benefits black people? No! And Bernie Sanders, reparations. I don't know what reparations means. Sonny Hostin told him it means money. No, I would not favor reparations. As soon as you peg the bastards down on it, they immediately give you a quick, unqualified no. They don't give you a, well, I would be in favor of cash reparations under these circumstances. Sure, something specifically for black people. I'd be in favor of that, but even qualified. See, everything else, they're willing to go ahead and give you some word salad, and they give you some verbal gibberish. They spew out some verbal vomit with all kind of qualifiers for everything else. They're willing to entertain any other policy. When it comes to every other policy, they would entertain it with certain qualifications, of course. But as soon as you start talking about policies specifically for the former slaves, as soon as you start talking about cash for black folks, all of a sudden it's an unqualified no. These are people who, if you ask them about killing people all over the world, whether it's military strikes, drone strikes in Iraq, or if it's military action in Syria, they're willing to give a qualified yes or a qualified no, which is the same thing. They leave themselves a back door, and they're always making it where, we can go either way with this. They always want to make sure that in case they need to reverse themselves or change their position, that they always had some verbiage that made it where they can say, see, I didn't contradict myself. I kind of left my door open there. But as soon as you start talking about us, all of a sudden, oh, hell no, ain't going to be no back door, side door, or escape hatch. We're just shutting this one down. Something only for you niggers? No. Cash reparations? No. See how that works? You have never heard them give an unqualified no to anything except us. All of a sudden, ain't no, they don't feel the need for any verbal embroidery. They ain't got to beat around the bush. They don't have to put any qualifiers on it. You're not going to get anything from anybody if you're vague about what it is that you want. That's why what Punk Daddy is doing is so dangerous to the black folks dumb enough to fall for it. You have to be specific and improve our lives. That's not specific at all. $16 trillion cash is. If you want to make progress in any endeavor in life, then you have to decide upon a goal that you want to pursue, and then you have to have a means by which you can measure if you're getting closer to your goal or farther away. Otherwise, you're going to wander around in meaningless circles forever, like we've been doing. Now, P. Dummy said that it's business at this point. Hey, P. Dimwit, because I know you're listening to this, you or some of your friends are, because you're sitting here ripping us off word by word and line by line. If you're going to quote me, then get it right. What I tell my people is that voting is a business transaction, not just business. Each election is an individual transaction. Every 2 to 4 years, another transaction takes place. That means it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Beginning is deciding on the policy that we want. Middle, either we put someone on the ballot, and that's where the smart money's at. You want to make sure that you put someone on the ballot so you can get a guaranteed outcome. When it comes to your power, that is simply too important for you to leave it up to chance. You don't select from a pre-screened, pre-vetted slate of white supremacist operatives who the left or right arm of white supremacy is put in front of you. You put your people out there. That way you know what the hell you're going to get. There's no guessing. But the final stage of the process, the end process, is the vote itself. Now, black folks have had it backwards. In fact, we've taken out all the other steps. We decided we're just going to go ahead and vote and maybe something will come out of it. No. The beginning process is deciding what it is that you want. Second, finding someone who is going to implement that for you, or you make sure you rake the bastard over the coals who's running for office and let him know, without this policy, you're not getting my vote. We do not move on to the final stage until we deal with this pledging to my tangibles first. And that's the thing that they're not used to. Black folks having requirements and standards. Because too many of us have been listening to black celebrities. We let the P. Dimwits and the Ta-Nehisi Chokes and the other fakers, frauds, phonies, and fools inform our sensibilities. And what do we have to show for it? You want my vote? You're going to have to carry out a specific, tangible policy. And then in 2 or 4 years, I will present you with another specific, tangible policy that you have to enact in order to get my vote. Each election is its own separate business transaction. And what you do this election cycle will not carry over to the next. Oh, you want my vote in 4 years? Well, just keep in mind, I got a whole new slate of requirements. But last time I did, that was last time. Today is what counts. By the way, if you want to know Professor Black Truth's track record on that one, you can go all the way back over a decade to We're All Detroiters Now. I'm sure you can find a repost of it on YouTube where I pointed out to you that you don't ever give a politician a vote based on what they did last year, even last week. Today is what counts. I was saying that a decade ago. Now, Pete Dimwit knows full well that in business, you have to be specific in order to have a transaction, which is why he deliberately did not use the term transaction. Change our lives. That's not specific worth a damn. A job at a GM plant, that can change your life, but the problem is it doesn't empower your life. It does not give you the ability to take control of your life, and that's what this is about. It is about power. It is about us guiding and controlling our own destiny and making it where the white supremacists have absolutely no control over us, no influence over us, and the bastards can't do a damn thing about us, period. This is about empowering ourselves and disempowering the white supremacists. Our demand is for power. And power is a four-letter word. CASH. This is where tangibles comes in. What is it that Jason Black has always said? Something you can own, something you control, and pass on to the next generation. Tangibles. That's something physical in your hands. You can't hold a GM job in your hands. And you damn sure can't pass it down to the next generation. Black people in Detroit thought they could do that, and I think we all see how well that plan worked out. We've spelled that out as money. When Sonny Hostin told Bernie the bigot that reparations meant money, that was specific. And the reason that you have to be specific is so that you can be sure if candidate so-and-so is going to do what you need if you vote for them. Letting them get away with all sorts of indistinct chatter about change your life and quality of life and such. Barack Obama said, you're the change you've been waiting for. You go ahead and give them a word like a child, and they don't really know what the word means, but they kind of have a vague idea of what it possibly could qualify as. And that's okay. When they don't get it, you didn't promise anything specifically. They didn't promise anything specific. And that way, when you tell the bastards you didn't do anything for us, that's vague. To say he didn't do nothing for you, what you have to be pointing out is, hold on, I told you reparations. Where the hell's my check? You didn't cut the check. Cut the check is specific. Cut a check? Check for what? $16 trillion, fool. That's specific. Now, Bernie the bigot, when he got asked about it, he immediately said an unqualified no. And that's fine. He didn't get the black vote either. When the griot talked to Kamala Harris, she used all the word salad that she could whip up in order to try to talk around the question of what she was going to do for black people specifically. Because that's what they've always done, because they've always gotten away with it. Because there has not been a black media out here to push this line. The griot didn't peg her down on the issue because they wanted to. They've been one of the main bastards out there helping these scumbags talk around our interests, just like the breakfast schlubs. Charlemagne the Fraud and DJ Penis Envy, they've been some of the worst offenders at letting these politicians come in their studio and ha-ha and he-he-ing with them and letting them say any kind of indistinct garbage they wanted. They only got a little bit of sense in their vocabulary because of what we have been doing. They were part of Punk Daddy's Vote or Die coalition. They were part of that little group. And if it wasn't for us, they would still be out here saying, well, lesser of two evils, you gotta vote for the Democrats because Trump would be worse. Yeah, you see, that's what happens when you have tools who are able to operate in a vacuum. We have gotten rid of the vacuum. We have filled that vacuum with a vocabulary of power. And it has not been a quick process. We've been out here for over a decade working in the vineyards, but you see what's been occurring though. The progress has been incremental. It hasn't been by leaps and bounds, but the progress has been coming simply because we changed the vocabulary. And this is what we're doing merely with the words that are being used. White supremacy now trembles in its boots and soils its britches at the prospect that these people are going to get tangible resources, real resources that they can use, because then at that point, it moves beyond words. It's a whole new ball game then. And they know it. So as far as they're concerned, they got to head this off now. Can they get somebody who has a familiar face, a black familiar face, to mislead us? Because they see how bad it's gotten for them, that there's a group of black folks out here who can crush a presidential candidate almost immediately. Kamala Harris didn't give the right answer. And it was a situation of, you got these black bootlicks for the white media. They have to use our verbiage. They have to use our words. They have to invoke the things that we say because they're losing credibility day by day when they don't. And the job of the black bootlick is to prove that they have some influence over the former slaves. And every time that they refuse to say what we say and do what we do, they are destroying their own would be legitimacy. So they have to pretend to talk like us, but only for a hot minute. What the white media is doing for Pete Dimwit, this isn't coverage at all. It's just purely promotion is what they're doing. They're just promoting the guy. Also, you notice how none of the white media is criticizing him? Notice how they're talking about him? They're not sitting here saying that, oh, you're going to hold the vote hostage? Isn't that's controversial? P. Diddy has a controversial stance, you see. He wears a shirt that says African on it, and nobody in the white media is calling that divisive or reverse racism or what's wrong with this guy. Is he Black Lives Matters or something? They're not doing that. Neither the white left nor the white right is trying to dirty him up or cast aspersions on him. Or they're trying to find a way to denigrate what he's doing or cast it in some sort of unfavorable light. None of them are asking what qualifies him, of all people, to try to inform a presidential election. Nobody's bringing up, hey, wasn't this the idiot who just a couple of years ago was running around with vote or die shirts? Do we really want to take his word for it? I mean, how do we know that this is on the level? In fact, you have the white media outlets like The Hill who are repeating the same words and phrases that we've been using when explaining the election cycle con game that the left arm of white supremacy has been running on us. Now you got The Hill, who has never done this before. They've never talked like this before regarding black people. And if you watch with their little commentary, they use almost word for word what we've been saying. But they don't apply it to black people, just like with P. Dimwit. They're very careful to make it clear, well, we're talking about voters in general. What he's saying applies to everyone, but it just lets you know they've always known this. Their job is to make it where black people do not get on code and do not get specific by using a bunch of black people who are on the payroll to mislead us away from the path of power. And now what's happening is the little con game has some serious cracks in it. Oh, they'll give lip service to it, but what they're doing is they're really trying to make it where, and this is where you see, but I don't have anything to do with people like, say, Killer Mike, because if it wasn't Pete Dimwit, it probably would have been Killer Mike next. When it comes to talking about black people's interests, we don't use vagaries. We are specific. And what we also don't do is we don't run around trying to shoehorn every other conceivable group into what our agenda and our interests are. We are looking to improve the lives of black people. And you improve the lives of black people through money. That's how it's done. There is no other way. When the money situation of the former slaves has been rectified, all those other issues are going to go away, including police brutality and including lower education and all the rest of it. These happen, those are the things, those are the symptoms of a group without money. As Jason Black beautifully put it in his documentary, 7 a.m., they hate us because we're black, but the only reason that they're able to abuse us is because we're poor. And they know that. A resource poor people are also going to be a largely defenseless people. White supremacy and its non-white allies, these individuals, they have formed an unholy alliance against us. And some of the individuals in that unholy alliance are some black people like Pete Dimwit. And by the way, when you see these white media outlets who are sitting here heaping praise and lauding Pete Dimwit, it's not because he's famous, okay? They could give less than a damn about that. And it's not because they're timid about speaking for black people. They attack and assail us constantly. They run us into the ground every chance they get. They talk down to us. They malign us. They condescend to us. They're constantly saying, what's wrong with these black voters? The only reason they are taking this unprecedented step of mentioning the election treadmill that we've been talking about is because they've seen that they can't really be legitimate talking to black folks. Black people aren't going to listen to them unless they actually bring up what the new voices of black media have been saying. We're the ones who have been pointing out the 2 to 4 year con game. That crap that you had, what's her name, Crystal Ball, whatever the hell she calls herself, with that stuff that she was saying, that's exactly word for word what I've been saying. That the game that they run is, oh, you got to help get so-and-so candidate into office. And, well, you're going to do anything for us? Well, we'll talk about that later. But first, we got to get into office. And once they get into office, I got to get reelected. Can't do anything. I got to hold on to the White House, you know. And once you get them reelected, well, I would do something for you, but we got to hold on to the White House. I'm about to leave office now. Here's the next guy. And that's the game that they've been playing. And look, black people have allowed themselves to be played for suckers. That's not what the Hill was saying. They were talking about every other group, like women and immigrants and such. I'm talking about black people. What you got here with the white media plastering P. Dimwit's insipid little boast on all over the place, what they're doing is they're trying to bestow instant legitimacy on this guy as some sort of political spokesman for black people. They're trying to bestow instant legitimacy on him. So, as I've always told you, whenever white media is trying to build up some con person like D. Ray McKesson or KRS2, Toronto Burke, they're not going to be asking any questions about D. Ray McKesson's criminal past. I don't know if he has one or not, but the point is the white media hasn't looked, hasn't asked, doesn't care, doesn't seem to care. Same thing with Toronto Burke. Hey, do you know if Toronto Burke has any parents, if her mother was a drug addict? See, when it comes to NFL draftees, if they find out that you have some person with substance abuse issues in your family tree, they'll bring that up. Freddie Gray was murdered, and CNN decided, well, his mother took drugs. So have they ever done that with D. Ray McKesson? Ever done that with KRS2? You see them deciding to try to throw dirt on Punk Daddy? See, when the white media is trying to prop up a Negro who they want black folks to look at favorably, they make sure, hey, zero tolerance for dirtying this guy up. We're not going to be criticizing him. We're not going to be bringing up anything unfavorable. We're trying to get the Negroes to invest in this guy. We're trying to get the Negroes to put their faith in this guy and to let him speak for them, so we can't be throwing any dirt on him now. And we don't want white people to think we don't want white people going in on him either. So we're going to go ahead and give this guy a pass. That's what they always do. When there's some black person who they're attempting to use as their stalking horse. It's standard operating procedure. This is what's going on here. There's only one place that's been saying that elections are a business transaction and that the black vote will not be taken for granted, and that if we're not getting promises and pledges for specific tangibles for us, then we're not voting. There's only one place that's been doing that, and it hasn't been Revolt TV. P. Dimwit says he wants to know what black people, he said black and brown people will get. Well, that's the reason why. His little stunt is controlled opposition. Anytime that you see the white media reporting on some black person and they're not trashing that black person, some black person's talking tough in front of the white media, and the white media is not calling him out and trying to take him down and trying to refute him and trying to debunk and defame him. Whenever you see the white media reporting on that person and they're not trying to destroy them, that's because that black person is promoting a message that the white media wants out there. That's how you can immediately identify a black tool for white supremacy. White supremacy makes it a point that, hey, if this Negro's saying something that we don't want out there, if they're promoting a message that's against the interest of white supremacy, we're going to put them on a panel. Make sure you put them on a panel. And we're going to front load the panel with 3 other people who are against them. So it's going to be the host and 3 other chumps against this one guy. Oh, and make sure the segment is no more than 4 or 5 minutes. That way, the anchor person will be talking for 2 of those minutes. And the other panelists, they're going to be talking for about 2.5 minutes. And this black guy here who's talking so irresponsibly, he'll get 30 seconds, maybe. And the entire point is you're going to have the same old narrative play itself out. Hey, there's this irresponsible black guy talking about reparations, and he's talking about tangible specifically for black people. This has been called divisive, controversial. A lot of people are saying that this guy's dividing people. And what would Dr. King say? And that's what happens. Then the panelists, this guy is wrong. He has no support. This is the fringe. Oh, this is just a black version of the alt-right. Well, what do you have to say for yourself, you divisive Negro speaking so irresponsibly? The guys make sense, but the truth of the matter is, let's make sure our panelists need to get in here. They always make sure to give themselves the last word and most of the words. Haven't you noticed that? That's deliberate. Because the entire point is the media, the white media, especially the so-called news, this is not a group of people sitting around racking their brains to find out what's all the news that's fit to print. We want to make sure that people have the best possible information. No, that's not what the media is. It's the so-called news has never been that. The so-called news under white supremacy has always been nothing more than a TV show, packaged, presented, and promoted and pushed to you, no different than the latest episode of CSI. They already have their pre-arranged script, format, whatever you want to call it, lined up. They already know what it is that they're going to be saying. They have it set up in a certain way where what's going to happen is if you're the person who they want to take down, they make sure to put you in the middle of whatever the segment is. The host begins off by talking. They frame it as you're so irresponsible, you're wrong, you're controversial, you're divisive, blah, blah, blah. Let's make sure that we define this person. Before they even say a word, we want to go ahead and let the audience know this is a guy who you shouldn't like. We don't want you people favoring whatever this Negro is about to say. And then you're in the middle of the segment giving a rebuttal, and they have some other people there, so you're outnumbered. So it's to give the impression that, see, we have a bunch of panelists here. This person is so off base. They're so fringed. Everyone's against them. Why? We got three panelists who we paid to be here, and they're saying how wrong this guy is, and well, that means that he's wrong. So take notes, everybody. This is a wrong position. This is social engineering 101. This is societal programming 101. This is how it's done. Whenever I talk to you about image training, what the white media does when they attack a black person who's making sense, that's how it's done. You train people through showing them a story. The story is here's some irresponsible fringe person, and here's the white media, the voice of reason, and some concerned citizens who are going to be talking all phony altruism, fake humanitarianism, and telling you sit on your hands while white supremacy wipes you out. P. Dimwit's little display that the white media is attempting to promote and legitimize. That's all that's going on here. This is just the latest attempt by the white media to co-opt what we're doing. They tried it with A. Dunce. They tried it with that reparations fraud on Capitol Hill last year, and now you got Punk Daddy. He started off with his Revolt Summit, which was anything but a summit. They should have called it a freaking chasm, because that's what it was. They didn't go to any heights. They just went straight to the toilet. And he had his live stream with Al Sharpton. And I think Van Jones is part of it. Maybe I remember that Ocasio Horseface was up there. See, the white media realizes they can't stop our momentum. We are not dependent on getting any airtime on the white media's airwaves. We are not doing like A. Dunce and trying to figure out how do we get the white media to report on us. In fact, we said exactly the opposite. It doesn't pay for us to be running around trying to figure out how to get the white media to notice us. It doesn't pay to do that. We're not trying to promote anyone as a leader of tangibles or reparations. We're promoting the ideology, not a particular person. Because you promote a particular person, that person could be killed, or you get somebody like Punk Daddy who comes along and he nominates himself as leader. And you got to remind everybody, it's the ideology that's the leader. And this guy is not promoting the ideology. He's out here with a bunch of empty talking points. You need to recognize it when you see it. So why put this clown out here? What do they hope to gain from all this? If they already know that our momentum is not going to be able to be stopped, and that black voters are already saying, you know what, I'm going to sit this election out. Tangibles are not on the ballot, hence we will not be at the polling booth. Since the white media already sees that, what they're doing is their plan is to try to get ahead of that. They know what's coming in November. And they know it's going to be all about how the black vote said no tangibles, no vote. That's a far more potent and clearly far more popular message than vote or die. So the white media is seeing exactly what's about to be the lead story of the 2020 election. They're trying to get out in front of it by putting P. Dimwit out there to say that he tells black folks, ostensibly black people, even though he didn't say black people, he's holding the vote hostage, and he'll tell black folks to stay home if they don't get anything promised to them. That way, when November comes and black people who are already deciding that they're not going to go to the polls, when black people don't turn out to vote, the white media can then point to their puppet Punk Daddy and say, he did it. See, this was all Puff Daddy's doing. Why, he said that he would, wow, he must really be influential. He said he would tell black folks to stay home, and they did it. And this was all him. That surely wasn't those new black media voices over there. Damn sure wasn't them. It must have been. It was definitely Puff Daddy. Wow, Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy. What will it take to get black people to turn out to the polls? Well, you gotta feel our pain, and we need some money for black education, like the HBCUs. We need like a Lift Act or something, right? Because we ain't trying to, for black and brown people and disadvantaged folks in the inner cities, and that's what the world he would come up with. All of this pretending where he dances up to the line and tries to make you think that he's saying the same thing that the black media says. You go ahead and let the white media ask him, well, what is it that you want? He'll be talking just like Kamala Harris. You'll be sitting there going, man, you and Kamala Harris must have the same speech writers because you're saying the same crap. That's where he's coming from. That's where this is supposed to lead to. Just like with A Dunce. You had Mushmouth, who was talking about, well, Cory Booker's baby buzz. That's not a real proposal. That's not really. That ain't gonna be a solution to the economic wealth gap. Not baby bonds. Then as soon as the dude puts his little video together, what does he say? Baby bonds, leading you right back into the clutches of the left arm of white supremacy after you just got through freeing yourself. That's what it's about. As Neely Fuller says, white supremacy believes in taking both sides of an argument. That way, no matter which side loses, white supremacy still wins. The white media is hoping that by pushing P. Dimwit into the public eye and having him saying the black vote will stay home if I tell them to, hopefully in November, when things predictably go south, they won't have to admit to the real cause. Because they realize we're not going away. That's what they were hoping for. We don't talk about these guys, they'll go away, just like those A-Dunce idiots did. We just don't talk about them, they'll go away. If we don't talk about them, they might as well not exist. And what they realize is we exist outside the white media. We didn't need them to come into existence, and we don't need them to stay around. Black people came to us long before the white media noticed us, and by the time the white media was willing to admit to our existence, it was too damn late. Look, the black vote's been up in arms for years. But that doesn't have anything to do with P. Dimwit. We were saying no tangibles, no vote back when he was still saying vote or die. The black vote's already, the die is already cast. Black folks already made it clear, hey, none of these scumbags, not any of the Democrats were willing to say the words, black people, specifically those who came out of slavery, are owed a $16 trillion check, and we need to put together a stimulus package just for them. We have to rectify that, and that's going to be a central plank of my political platform. None of them said that. And I don't want to hear anything about Marianne Williamson. That woman was a novelty candidate, just like Tulsi Gabbard. People sitting here, Marianne Williamson, she was not much better or different than Kamala Harris saying, well, there's many forms of reparations, many forms. It doesn't have to be, but it doesn't have to be cash. Marianne Williamson, well, maybe a couple of pennies, no. People need to get over this idea that when black people have demands, somehow the demands are illegitimate, or whatever the demands are, you're asking for too much. No, you need to get used to doing what we say. People, they already don't like it when black people get anything. If a black man earns something in the free market, they got a problem with it. He shouldn't have it. It's not a matter of the amount of money. You just got through seeing something like $5 trillion being doled out like so much monopoly money without a single hearing about it, without a single debate, without a single objection. So what does that tell you? It ain't the amount of money that we're demanding that's the problem. It's the people making the demand. You could be making a demand for $1. They'd say it's too much. You see, Punk Daddy has been out here trying to lead black people back into the political treadmill for the longest time. But he's singing a different tune today, isn't he? In fact, he's using our words verbatim. And this is the same con game that you had a bunch of these other idiots trying for the longest time. They all of them try to settle on the same strategy. They eventually all land on the exact same con game. What the black media says has too much power. It's too attractive to black people. It's got too much cachet, too much influence. Black people gravitate to it because they know that this is real. And it creates and represents a substantive threat to the white supremacist political order. Because you got the black folks who are actually making demands of the political system that will require white supremacy to lose power. So what they're doing is they're trying to use our words in the hopes that people out there, and you got a bunch of impressionable folks, a bunch of dumb black people, a lot of black silly folk out there, the same idiots who think that a $1,200 stimulus check for everyone, whether you're black, white, yellow, green, purple, or even a legal alien, if you give a $1,200 check to every single person within the boundaries of the continental United States, why, that's reparations for the former slaves. How the hell is it reparations for the former slaves if everybody gets it? That's the kind of simple-minded, weak-willed dimwit who would actually fall for Punk Daddy's cock and bull story, this little dog and pony show he's putting on. That's the kind of simpleton who would actually go for it. He's repeating our exact language in the hopes that there'll be some Negroes who will hear that and go, well, these white folks is talking about him, and look, he's got a few stories on the internet. The white media's talking about, we need to get with him because he's got more traction. While the white media's talking about him, and we need to get with that because, well, he can get us tangibles faster. Did he say tangibles? No, but it's a chess move. Oh, you mean like Jay-Z's chess move with the NFL? You mean like that? Oh, it's a chess move, man. You can't say tangibles. You got to be careful. You got to tiptoe up to the line. Yeah, the same way Jay-Z did. Same way Kamala Harris did. Same way Barack Obama did. And he will also give you the same results, stupid. See, from the breakfast schlubs to Pete Dimwit, the black media hasn't had to change what we've been saying. We haven't changed one iota. Not one I dotted, not one T crossed has had to be changed with the black media's rhetoric. But these fakers, frauds, phonies, and fools, all these black celebrities, these cardboard rubber idiots that the white media has been trotting out for decades, they've had to change their language. All of these black celebrities, they've had to change their language to sound more like us. We have not changed anything we've said. The entire purpose of the white media's black bootlicks is to influence black people. Sure, it's been a tug of war, but it's one that they realize slowly but surely they've been losing. Like Richard Spencer, the white media, a bunch of bigots just like him, they look at where the trend is going and they're going, wait a minute, more and more black people are gravitating to this. And what's happening is these Negroes are showing some real persistence on this issue. They won't let it go. They're just not letting it go. And what they're saying, more and more black people are repeating this. They're not letting it go. The white media can't figure out how to stop the message because they can't figure out how to stop us. Oh, they're not going to be able to present black people with a more attractive proposition because white supremacy's entire MO is you're not going to present black people with anything. You see, the difference between 1 and 0 is like the difference between 0 and infinity. That's what's going on here. We are coming to black people and talking about a certain something. White supremacy is bringing you a vague, indistinct nothing. And they know that what we're talking about is always going to be more attractive to you, and they got to get you off of that. Stop looking at them tangibles. Stop talking about actually getting something. You need to talk about black and brown alliances. And you need to be talking about kumbaya and holding hands and colorblind alliances. And what would Dr. King say? That's what you need to be talking about. So they've been trotting out all these black dummy front groups and black front people who are pretending to say what we say, but when you press them on the issues, they immediately retreat to their white media master's position and talking points. We have been promoting a specific, particular discourse within the black community, one geared toward our power, and that means tangible resources, starting with money. What these black flunkies like A. Dunce and the Capitol Hill reparation charlatans and P. Dimwit are meant to do is to hijack the discussion that we've begun. Star power always gets people's attention, especially when the white media decides, hey, we're going to make this front of mind. We have a media megaphone and we're going to use it. So we're going to make sure that you hear this garbage, even if you don't believe what P. Dimwit says, even if you don't believe what Danny Glover and Ta-Nehisi Chokes and these other white media paid bootlicks have to say, even if you don't believe it, the point is you're still going to see it. You're still going to have to contend with it if for no other reason than the fact you got to shoot it down. So if nothing else, we can at least make sure that it's part of the discussion. Star power does indeed get people's attention. Dangling some celebrity in front of us, that's always been the golden blackjack that never misses. Because black folks drop everything and follow whatever the chosen white media tool says because he's famous. This is the closest to influence that black people have aspired to. We don't aspire to personal influence or influence as a group. Instead, it's a matter of, well, if you'll listen to some black person, yeah, even if the black person is just a tool, a puppet saying what his white masters have told him to say, we'll settle for that. But the black media has come along and changed all that. We have delegitimized this white supremacist strategy, and we've also delegitimized the black tools who have played along with it. The black reparations advocates from last year, they were the first ones to say the reparations didn't have to be cash, and that was deliberate. They were actors, literally in the case of Danny Glover, and their job was to put on a show, and the show had one purpose. It was to be a dramatization of a group of black people saying, we want reparations, but reparations doesn't have to be cash. And that was supposed to frame and supposed to set the social discourse for the wider society. Whenever we say, hey, reparations is supposed to be cash, they can say, well, Danny Glover said it doesn't have to be, and Ta-Nehisi Choke said it doesn't have to be, and they said they're in favor of reparations too, and that's what we think. We think that, yeah, it doesn't have to be cash. This is a fringe position. Comfort food for the white supremacists. It's supposed to give encouragement to them, and they got black people playing along with it. When I see Punk Daddy wearing a shirt that says African, and you don't see white people on the right angry about it, that's how you know the bad guys are on code about this. They know it's a fraud. They know it's a con job. They're just wondering if you know it. You know, for several months now, Punk Daddy's been trying to position himself to be the voice of the black street and attempting to co-opt or to appropriate what have been the trappings of the black grassroots. These black celebs have never given a damn about black politics before. Now, usually a black celebrity runs from politics. Oh, I'm all about people. I'm race neutral. I'm for everyone. They don't want to lose their crossover, read white audience. So they want to make sure that they don't say anything that makes white people uncomfortable or anything that might give the dominant society heartburn. So it's a matter of they want to be as colorblind as possible. Don't pigeonhole me. Don't, keep the word black far away from me. That's how black celebrities have always talked, especially these rappers. You ask these rappers about anything having to do with a black agenda, and they'll tell you, man, it's all, I just want to be about my music, man. Everybody buys my music, man. What was it the Rakim said when he was asked about Eminem? Oh, I'm colorblind. That's what these fools say. You ask these rappers about a black agenda, and all of a sudden they're sitting here talking Rainbow Coalition, the freaking United Colors of Benetton. That's what these clowns are on. Oh, they want to talk about their music. They want to talk about their cars. They want to talk about the girls at the club. They want to talk about the fools they beefing with. Yeah, but we're not talking about black empowerment. That's what these guys always do. And what we've done is we've made it where you can do that, but you will not be legitimate when it comes to black folks talking about things that matter. And now all of a sudden, these same rappers who before now you couldn't pay them to talk about black agenda, now all of a sudden these guys, they want to wade into the waters of American politics. Now all of a sudden they got something to say. Now they want to be armchair political commentators all of a sudden. Get the hell out of here. You've been running from black people's political interest all this time. Keep on running. Brothers like Jason and Tariq, they've been renting venues for years now for black folks to come together and to talk about things that matter. And the topic of conversation has been tangibles. It hasn't been voting for this or that party. It's been about what it should be about, what it is we're going to get. And it hasn't been some vague, indistinct chatter about changing our lives and making things better. We've been talking about money on the table. and how that is an absolute requirement before we even consider voting for anyone. See, Punk Daddy, he only just now has realized that elections are a business transaction. The black media has known it and taught it all along, and we practice what we teach. Holding phony baloney summits and idiotic live streams like P. Dimwit's been doing. He hasn't been fooling anyone. He watches what it is we say and what we're planning to do, and then he puts out his own counterfeit knockoff version of it. Oh, these guys talking about doing a summit. Ooh, Jason Black held a summit. Black Empowerment One. Ooh, Tariq Nasheed's planning a foundational Black American summit this year. Well, I know what I'll do. I got this white media. They're going to signal boost whatever I say. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine out there, and they'll talk about it because the white media's got a media megaphone. And they can make sure everybody sees it. It'll overshadow what these guys are doing, and everybody will just forget about them. White power gave P. Dummy his money, and they also gave him the skirt that he wears. And when he doesn't have enough money on his own to do their bidding, they can just arbitrarily give him a venue or give him a platform or give him wall-to-wall white media coverage. They can just arbitrarily give it to him. So he can put on some high-profile distraction, and the white media can glorify it and legitimize it and say, oh, this is just, oh, look at the P. Revolt Summit. Oh, he had some black celebrities there, and there was some would-be presidential contenders there. Oh, this is surely the most important thing. That's all about trying to legitimize what these black tools for white supremacy do. Trying to make it seem as if they're important. And they will make sure not to criticize what they do or to call them divisive or controversial. The white media will make sure that, we're definitely not going to be tearing down what this guy is doing because what he's doing benefits white supremacy. And he'll make sure that no matter how much he repeats our words or our actions, Punk Daddy's not about to talk to the new voices of black media because his entire mission is to derail what we're doing. And for the slow coasts out there who clearly listen to too much music and you live in a dream world of your own imagination, and I guess you overdosed on BET rap videos, a long time ago, let me tell you something. This isn't a case of some black celeb who wants the same thing that we do, but he's got a big ego, so he wants to take credit for it himself. If I truly thought that P. Dimwit was actually on the side of black empowerment, and it's just a matter of he sees that this is the quickest road for him to do something legitimate and meaningful and something that has significance. And he just got this huge ego, and god dang it, if it ain't got his name on it, he doesn't want anything to do with it. So it's like, I'm all in favor of reparations, I'm all in favor of cash tangibles, but god dang it, you gotta credit this to me. You gotta say this is what P. Diddy Combs did. If I truly thought that that's what he was about, even though it would be off-putting to me, it wouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker. I don't give a damn who gets the job done, long as the job gets done. You guys have been hearing about me for over a decade now. You've never met me. You want to know why? Because I'm not looking to get credit. I'm trying to get the job done. I'm not trying to become a celebrity. I could give less than a damn about you knowing my name or my face, which is why you've never seen either. And if I thought that Pete Dimwit was actually on the up and up, if I thought that this was going to lead to what we wanted, believe it or not, I am not above holding my nose and going, well, I ain't saying all this other off-code crap he's done in the past was right, but, he does seem to be on the right track with this. We can give him credit to a truth, though not a fault. I wouldn't be above doing that, but the problem is this man has a decades-long track record of prioritizing every other group over us. He has a proven decades-long track record of ignoring black people, and even with this little asinine stunt that he pulled, this little PR publicity display he put on, he didn't mention black people until he said black and brown. And now he wants to talk like he's the head Negro in charge. Giving Punk Daddy some white media attention, that's meant to draw people's attention away from what it is that we're doing. Because black people have spent decades trying to live vicariously through singers, rappers, athletes, and actors. The white media knows this because they were the ones who conditioned us to be this way. But the black media has been removing these mental chains. So, just like with reparations last year, the white media is trying the old playbook. Put some black celebrity, singer, actor, whatever out there who claims to be interested in what we're interested in, who uses a little bit of our verbiage so that the bullcrap they're spewing is a little bit easier to swallow. And then next thing you know, they'll immediately pivot to, and that's the reason why we need to support the Lift Act and we need to have kumbaya and everyone's interests are important and all people matter, all lives matter, and here we go. We stand at a pivotal moment. And we damn well better not decide that now is the time to cut and run. This is the time to dig in. Clearly, the white media is looking forward to the election, but I've always taught you that you need to see the institutions and the practices and the trappings of white supremacy the way that your oppressor does. You're never going to be able to beat white supremacy until you're able to figure out how white supremacy thinks and operates. That way, you can get ahead of the bastards, as we've taught you to do. You got to see white supremacy schemes the way that they see it. That way, you're able to tear them apart from the inside out. And just like you see with the white media trotting out Punk Daddy and trotting out those reparation fraudsters last year, they'll be throwing all this crap against the wall to see if anything sticks. White supremacists is not used to being in the position of being helpless. They're used to having just this playbook, usually one or two plays that always work, and it always goes down the same way. They're used to getting what they want with no opposition and no effort whatsoever. Now, the playbook's not working, and they don't know what the hell to do. You need to see elections the way the white supremacy sees them. You know damn well that the elections are not about choosing leaders. White supremacy's already chosen who the punks on the ballot are going to be. They've already selected and screened them for you. So this isn't about choosing leaders. So what purpose do elections serve then? If it's not an issue of choosing who the leaders are, what's the point of an election? Elections serve a very crucial purpose, and that is to take the temperature of the citizenry. Are the citizens still on board with the established order? Or are they ready to take things into their own hands? When people disengage from the electoral process, what that means is they no longer have faith in the political system. They no longer look at the ballot as a means of getting what they want. Now, that's fine if the people decide to sit home and watch Revolt TV. But if you have a black media out there telling these disenfranchised, oppressed people that we will have power on our own terms, then that disengaged former electorate stops looking like a defeated group of dejected voters, and instead they start looking like an army. And the United States fears this. White supremacy in America fears this because this is precisely what the U.S. has done across Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, in order to topple elected governments that the U.S. wants out of power. They find people who don't like the current order, and they convince them, hey, the ballot's not the way you're going to get what you want. The U.S. never really had popular support for any of the uprisings and coups and overthrows and regime changes that it's pulled. The U.S. has never really had popular support from any of the country's people when they install some thug in power. So what the U.S. has had to substitute for popular support are huge amounts of money and arms for their chosen puppets. See, that's what you got to do when you don't have the support of the people. When you don't have the people behind you, what you got to do is you got to substitute that with money and weapons. The black media and this black empowerment movement that we represent, on the other hand, we've gotten the job done with only a pittance compared to white supremacy and no weapons whatsoever. What do you think white supremacy thinks to itself when it sees that? How the hell do you fight an enemy who's operating like this? Family, this is a classic case of controlled opposition. If P. Dimwit was really so hot and bothered about getting tough with these Democrat politicians, then why the hell didn't he confront Ocasio Horseface when he was live streaming with her? She has categorically ignored black voters. When she was running for office, she did not reach out to black people, and she damn sure didn't say what she was going to do specifically for the black citizens of the Bronx. She didn't say what she was going to do for black Bronxites. Black New Yorkers weren't going to get a damn thing from her, and indeed they have not. When she won office, I told you about on her election night. I was watching that particular. Does she mention black people? You know, this Hispanic woman, isn't she going to give mention to the much ballyhooed, much vaunted Black Brown Alliance? Because you got a black folks like Pete Dimwit. They every time they say black, they got to say and brown right behind it. Okay, let's see if this Hispanic woman returns the favor. Let's see if she's on the same page as us. Does she say Black and Brown Alliance or Brown and Black Alliance? Is that what she says? No, she didn't say it at all. She sticks to Hispanic, and that's all she said. That's it. She didn't mention black people, and she has not spared a word or even a thought for black people since she won office. She has, however, been on a nonstop jihad for illegal aliens, but only if they come from south of the border. That's what she's been about. There hasn't been a brown, black, brown anything from her. When talking about Hispanics, Alexandria Ocasio Horseface talks about specifics. She offers tangibles when talking about Hispanics. It's only been the last couple of weeks, though, that she's been doing a few PR stunts with clowns like Al Sharpton and his Do Nothing National Action Network and P. Dimwit's Revolt live stream. All of a sudden, she wants to go ahead and get in a little bit of FaceTime with some black folks. Why do you think she's doing that, huh? And why is it that P. Dimwit did not call her on it and say, well, I ain't here to necessarily to take you on, but the thing is, you ain't been saying what you're going to be doing for black people. So before, we got to start right here with you. What are you going to do specifically for black people? Well, there needs to be an alliance. No. Tangibles. How much money? How big is the check? Check? Yes, check. He didn't do that. He didn't call her out. He didn't say, you know what? You didn't say a damn thing that you were going to be doing specifically for black people. Well, what I've said is that disenfranchised groups, no, disenfranchised, hell, black people. Well, underserved communities, hell, black people. People of color, my foot, black people. Minorities, you be a minority, we're black. He didn't do that with Alexandria Horseface. Well, then again, we all know Pete Dimwit has a Latina fetish, and he's totally willing to offer up the black community as a living sacrifice for interracial sexual access. But more than that, this is all a show. You see, this is why following black celebrities is suicidal. These are white supremacy's handpicked puppets. And no matter how much tough talk they may do, when white supremacy pulls their coat, they will fold like hot laundry. Remember when Snoop Dogg threw in the towel? He did an about face when it came to Kobe Bryant. Oh, he was talking big. Until his white handlers let him know, P. Diddy, we can take that TV show away from you, buddy. The next thing you know, every time you try to do one of your little rap shows, you're going to find it a hell of a lot harder to get a venue, buddy. And all of a sudden, people are going to be reminding you, man, you're going to have some Me Too protests wherever you go, buddy. Hey, man, the same stuff we've been saying about Kobe, the same way we say that black men mistreat black women. Hey, we can dig up some hood rats on you, same way we did with R. Kelly. We can find some black women who'll talk about how you didn't treat them right back in the day. Man, y'all can only do that if you find some liars. You think we're above that? You think we won't? Oh, yeah, I can imagine exactly the conversation that took place. This is why you do not want to place your faith or your fate in the hands of a P. Dimwit or a Snoop Dogg or any of the rest of these fakers, frauds, phonies, fools, charlatans, turncoats, and backstabbers. These guys are not going to take you anywhere. What little resistance you may get, what little back talk a killer Mike will give will only be the case until Bernie the bigot walks in the room. Then all of a sudden he starts panting like a dog and his tail starts wagging. He becomes an obedient little puppy serving and obeying his master. Snoop Dogg stopped barking as soon as white power told him to knock it off. And P. Dimwit, hell, what he did was less useful than having done nothing at all. So, for those of you who have been asking me, what do I think about Pete Dimwit's insipid little boast that he was going to be holding the vote hostage if Joe Biden doesn't do something? What I think is if you can't be specific about the tangibles that black people are supposed to get, and if you can't be specific that is for us, then you need to keep your mouth shut. The simple minded idiots, the slow coast who basically fall for any old con game, they're going to go right for it, and that's fine. These guys were not with us to begin with. And the black people who think that there's some sort of shortcut to tangibles that's going to go through the black celebrity circuit, these guys are the biggest dummies in the room. I hope they're the first ones who cut ranks and decide to run off with Pete Dimwit. They deserve what they get, which will be absolutely nothing.